Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Certainly. In Golang, configuration management is often handled using structured data formats like YAML. YAML ain't markup language, is human-readable and widely used for configuration files due to its simplicity and ease of understanding. In this tutorial, we'll go through how to manage configurations in Go using YAML. We'll cover the following topics. 1. Installing required packages. 2. Creating a YAML configuration file. 3. Defining Go structs for configuration. 4. Loading YAML configuration into Go structs. 5. Accessing configuration values. 6. Example project. 1. Installing required packages. To work with YAML in Go, we need to use a package that can marshal and unmarshal YAML. The most commonly used package for this purpose is go-yaml. You can install it using the following command. Bash go get gopkg.in/yaml.v2. 2. Creating a YAML configuration file. Let's create a simple YAML configuration file named config.yaml. This file will contain some application settings. YAML. Config.yaml. App. Name, my app. Version, 1.0.0. Debug, true. Database. Host, localhost. Port, 5432. Username, user. Password, pass. Name, mydb. 3. Defining Go structs for configuration. We will define Go structs that match the structure of our YAML configuration file. This allows us to easily load the configuration into these structs. Go. Package main. Type app config struct. Name string YAML name. Version string YAML version. Debug bool YAML debug. Type database config struct. Host string YAML host. Port int YAML port. Username string YAML username. Password string YAML password. Name string YAML name. Type config struct. App config YAML app. Database config YAML database. 4. Loading YAML configuration into Go structs. Now, let's write a function to load the configuration from the YAML file into our Go structs. Go. Package main. Import. fmt. io/ioutl. Log. gopkg.in/yaml.v2. Func load config, file name string, *config, error. Data, error equals ioutl.read file, file name. If error, equals nil. Return nil, error. var config. If error equals yaml.unmarshal, data, and config, error, equals nil. Return nil, error. Return and config, nil. 5. Accessing configuration values. Once the configuration is loaded into the config struct, you can easily access the values in your application. 6. Example project. Here's a complete example that combines all the elements we've discussed. Go. Package main. Import. fmt. io/ioutl. Log. gopkg.in/yaml.v2. Type app config struct. Name string YAML name. Version string YAML version. Debug bool YAML debug. Type database config struct. Host string YAML host. Port int YAML port. Username string YAML username. Password string YAML password. Name string YAML name. Type config struct. App config YAML app. Database config YAML database. Func load config, file name string, asterisk config, error. Data, error equals ioutl.read file, file name. If error, equals nil. Return nil, error. var config. If error equals yaml.unmarshal, data, and config, error, equals nil. Return nil, error. Return and config, nil. Func main. Config, error equals load config, config.yaml. If error, equals nil. Log.fatalv, error, %v, error. fmt.printf, app name, %s\n, config.app.name. fmt.printf, app version, %s\n, config.app.version. fmt.printf, debug mode, %t\n, config.app.debug. fmt.printf, database host, %s\n, config.database.host. fmt.printf, database port, %d\n, config.database.port. Running the example. 1. Ensure you have Go installed and set up on your machine. 2. Create a directory for your project and navigate to it. 3. Create the config.yaml file with the content provided above. 4. Create a Go file main.go and paste the complete example code. 5. Run the program. Bash. Go run main.go. Conclusion. In this tutorial, we've learned how to manage structured configuration in Go using YAML files. We've discussed how to define struct types, load configuration from a YAML file, and access the configuration values in our application. Using YAML for configuration management can help keep your application settings organized and easily manageable.